Welcome, Virgo, to the month of November 2018. I'm Megan of North Star Astrology, and this is another general transits reading for those of you born with your sun, moon, and rising signs in the earth sign of Virgo. Now, the month starts out on November 2nd with Venus in Libra in your second house of money, sextiling the moon in Leo in your 12th house of dreams, or the subconscious mind. And with this planet of love in your second house of money, my apologies, excuse me, for that little glare of sunlight, but I'm trying to get the best light I can for you without having too much sun. Anyway, okay, the moon in Leo in your 12th house, so from the second house to the 12th house, moon in Leo sextiles Venus in Libra, giving you perhaps somewhat of a psychic proclivity, in a most positive sense, to the possibility of maybe dreaming of your lucky lotto numbers. That's just a possibility, but it is a possibility. Then on November 4th, 2 days later, Jupiter in Scorpio in your third house of communications sextiles the moon. Once the moon comes, and look at that, the sun is directly on the aspect of the word sextile. Okay, so now the moon, once the moon enters your sign, Virgo, into your first house of the self and body, it then proceeds to sextile. Oh my goodness. Excuse the... Wow. Okay. Right. All right. So the moon sextiles Jupiter. So from your third to your first houses, your emotions will largely depend on how positive you are, and you will be positive, and this happens at 7:27. So in communications with either siblings or during and through short distance travels, communications of all kinds from yourself and possibly through your body language will be ultra sweet and positive. Then on November 6th, Venus conjuncts the moon, making a very close 0 to 8 degree angle, or not angle, I guess it would be, a togetherness, or at one-ment, because a conjunction is 0 to 8 degrees, meaning both moon and Venus are together in the sign of Libra in your second house of money. So something to do with how you emotionally value your money and or resources and how you go about it. Then on November 6th as well, Uranus leaves Taurus and enters the sign of Aries into your 8th house, and technically actually goes retrograde at 19 hours and 1 minute. And oh boy, I'm losing sunlight. Okay, well, hopefully you can still see this. Okay, but it goes retrograde, but then it eventually goes direct on January 6th, 2019. At which point it will then go back into transiting your ninth house on March 6th, 2019. But for the time being, the planet Uranus is transiting, or will be transiting, in the month of November, November 6th, transiting through your 8th house, which means not only will you have, as this also deals with the house of not only others as resources, but sex, death, and taxes, with this planet Uranus in the 8th house in Aries, it will bring sudden, spontaneous good luck as far as being able to receive from others as resources. I know because my Uranus, or the planet Uranus, is currently transiting right about here and almost entering into the ninth house, at least from the standpoint of what I saw at astro.com. It was very fascinating. So for a long time I was receiving help, and now little by little I'm having to depend on myself. And meanwhile, this is a very good thing for you Virgoans. Then, also on November 6th, the north node of the moon in Leo leaves Leo and enters Cancer, the sign of Cancer, in your 11th house of friendships. Cancer is ruled by the moon, so this will be a very interesting north node. However, those of my friends that have their north node, their moon in Cancer, and also posited with Cancer rising in the first house, have a my way or the highway attitude. Don't have that attitude. Anyhow, north node of the moon goes into Cancer at 17 hours 38 minutes, and then eventually ends up going into the sign of Gemini as far into the future as May 5th, 2020. But for the time being, on November 6th, it will be going into your 11th house of friendships, which will bring a sense of great emotional fulfillment through friends and group events. Then, the new moon occurs at 16 hours 3 minutes, or 15 degrees Scorpio 11 minutes, in your 3rd house of communications. And with this new moon, you will feel like it's necessary to express yourself through communications in new and somewhat insightful ways. I think of Scorpio as being insightful, investigative, deep, so new and deep ways of communication, rather than using too much of your ruling planet Mercury and only being in your head about communicating. You can be more deep in how you, or learn to be more deep with this new moon in terms of communication. Then, the following day on November 8th, Jupiter makes what's known as an inconjunct, and I don't have a tab for that because it's a very rare, not often, infrequent aspect. In other words, I don't have one of these to indicate the ways in which an inconjunct, and or also known as a quincunx, aspects. So Jupiter will be quincunxing or inconjuncting the planet Uranus. So from your 3rd to your 8th houses, this inconjunct or quincunx happens at 6:21 on November 8th. And so what I have seen stemming from a natal inconjunct on a person I knew, knowing him well enough, he would always self-sabotage. And an inconjunct is, in a sense, and when I mean self-sabotaging, it means causing a person to feel somewhat intrinsically, but not natally, not natally necessarily at all, unless you have an inconjunct in your chart. But that is a 5-sign or 5-house away, almost like an opposition, but not. Definitely kind of like a square, but not. And giving you a sense of self-sabotaging through a sense of inadequacy, if you will. And it's sad because I think even my mom has that in her personality. And don't do that to yourself. Don't sabotage or create obstacles or suddenly not communicate in positive ways so that you don't screw up the possibility of garnering the help or from other people's resources, in other words. So that's a help to you, hopefully, that you'll learn from what I just said. And that's only what that stands for from what I've seen. And I don't know very much about the inconjunct. All that I know is that it does give those that have it or have had it, or in this case in a transiting sense, a sense of inadequacy and as if you're not able to do something, even though you know you probably could. But just go forward with it. Don't worry so much about it. Just go ahead and go through with whatever it is that you want to do, and don't let the certain inadequacies hold you back. Now, with that said, I want to move on to the fact that Mars here in transiting in your 6th house in Aquarius squares the new moon. So the moon is still building up toward the first quarter phase, but while it's still in your 3rd house, it then proceeds to square the action planet of Mars at 10:43. And here we have the new moon in Scorpio to Mars in Aquarius, giving you this sense of, wow, I've got to do this for whatever it is in work, and this square will give you the drive in a new sense, a new way, new actions taken. Gotta do it in order to work it out and to make it work in work, at work, or with your health, for instance. So that's good for a sense to give you the challenge or leg up or whatever it is that helps you get ahead. And so that's good for that. And then on November 8th as well, Jupiter enters Sagittarius, or your 4th house of the home. And this will bring you much luck within possibly your actual physical home itself, and or maybe the possibility of moving to a new home. And then on November 11th, 3 days later, Uranus trines the moon. The planet Uranus trines the moon once the moon comes over here in your 4th house of the home in Sagittarius, and now harmoniously trines the very impulsive, sudden, eclectic planet of Uranus. So there's a lot of harmony between your emotions within your home and how you might be able to obtain resources again. And sudden windfalls at that for your home, possibly. Then, on November 13th, Uranus proceeds to square the moon once the moon comes into your 5th house of romance and creativity, and then squares. So now from your 8th to your 5th houses, from the romance house to the house of also sensuality, you might emotionally be able to derive quite a bit of pleasure, albeit there may be a bit of a challenge to that pleasure, but there could be sudden impulsive infatuations too, perchance. So be mindful of that and beware in case you don't want that, especially if you're married or something. Be respectful of your laws of boundaries and such, and legal limitations and anything such as that. Then on November 15th, the first quarter moon occurs in your 6th house of health, work, and service given in Aquarius at 23 degrees Aquarius, 11 minutes. So in your 6th house, the first quarter moon phase occurs. And that happens at 14 hours and 55 minutes or 2:55 in the afternoon. And first, stemming from the new moon, maybe the first quarter phase moon will see you starting your first level of commitment on your maybe newly promoted phase of perhaps management or supervisory skills or whatever. Then also on November 15th, Mars leaves your 6th house and enters your 7th house into the sign of Pisces at 22:22 and 22 hours and 22 minutes, that is. And so this will see you being much more driven to either work with your business partners or others, and or driven to seek a partner. I know because my natal Mars is in Pisces. I've got Virgo rising, and I'm always trying to find my freaking soulmate. And all the tarot card readers keep saying he's on his way. Let's hope. Then I haven't given up hope. Then on November 16th, Uranus sextiles the first quarter moon at 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. in other words, in your 8th house. So from your 8th to your 6th houses, you now have this very positive, short but sweet 60-degree flowing aspect to your 8th and 6th houses between the moon and its first quarter phase. And so the possibility of asking for resources, as in a raise or a loan through work from your higher authorities, higher ups, in other words, is a possibility that you might receive a raise. Then, I'm getting an emergency alert on my cell phone. Interesting. Okay, sorry for the interruption here. This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. Oh, Lord. Okay, well, in other words, that was not an emergency. It was just a test. Okay. Next, also on November 16th, Venus stations direct at 10:52 in Libra. In other words, Venus goes direct again, and that's very good for all of us. And direct in your money house is also a very good thing. So you're going to be loving the flow of income. And then, oh brother, okay, I'm supposed to confirm that. Okay. Then also on November 17th, Mercury, your ruling planet, on November 17th, goes retrograde. Okay, and so now Mercury goes retrograde in your 4th house of the home. And those of you that also have Virgo rising like myself, I'm a Pisces, by the way, and I've got Virgo rising. If you've got Virgo rising, and or if you're a Virgo and it's your ruling planet, which it is, it's going to be going retrograde at 11:34 in your 4th house of the home, meaning you'll need to communicate and or be sure to write or sign carefully any documents toward the home, like any what do they call those where they refinance or anyway, so, or remortgage the home or something like that. Just be very careful to read the fine print on any contracts or documents for the home. Then on November 18th, the Sun, still in Scorpio in your 3rd house of communications, trines the moon once the moon comes into the sign of Pisces, into your 7th house of others. So now from your 3rd house to your 7th houses, the very harmonious trine between the Sun in communication to the moon of the planet of emotions, with and through possibly even a little bit of psychicness, being able to communicate psychically with siblings at a distance, and or with your significant other. Very promising for that. It's just in other words, it's just a good energy with that. And then on November 20th, Uranus conjuncts the moon. And again, a 0 to 8 degree together, the two planets together as forms a conjunction, as they're both in the sign of Aries in your 8th house. And this will give you a sense of a feeling or a sense of emotional brilliance, perhaps, or emotional, some sort of unique way of going about anything to do with the 8th house as it deals with others' resources. Okay, then on November 22nd, the Sun enters Sagittarius and enters your 4th house of the home as well. So now This highlights your home in a joyful way, having the sun enter here as we're gearing up toward Thanksgiving. And happy Thanksgiving, all of you, by the way. Then on November 22nd as well, Pluto in Capricorn trines the moon in Taurus. So from your 9th to your 5th houses, Pluto in your 5th house of romance and creativity, harmoniously trining the moon in Taurus in your 9th house, will give you that feeling or a sense of grounded, harmonious introspection or insight into the emotions you hold dear toward your romantic partner. It's going to be very positive and harmonious. Then on November 23rd, the full moon occurs in your 10th house of career and public standing in Gemini at 0 degrees Gemini, 52 minutes. Illuminating your need to perhaps verbalize your needs in your career and make yourself known. That'll help with that. Then, on November 25th, Neptune stations direct, meaning it was retrograde for a time, but now stations direct at 1:09 in Pisces in your 7th house. So now you won't feel like others are pulling the wool over your eyes as much, as the planet Neptune sometimes deals with deception with and through others. Don't allow people to deceive you. Then, on November 25th, Uranus sextiles the waning full moon. Got a lot of Uranus energy this month. So from your 8th to your 10th houses, you now have the ability to continue to ask for a promotion perhaps in your career and possibly receive it, because that's a positive, even 60-degree even number aspect between these two houses, with sudden promise, possible sudden promising promotion. Then on November 27th, Uranus squares the moon once the moon moves back full circle into Leo, and now squares the moon. So now again, you may have a bit of a challenge with perhaps asking your friends for a little bit of help in the way of resources. Then, on November 29th, Jupiter makes what is known as a semi-square, and I don't have either one of those kinds of aspects like this either, because it's a very infrequent aspect placement. And so from Jupiter to the semi-square of Pluto, see how close by they are to each other? It's somewhat like a semi-square, it's somewhat like a square, but it's close to almost being, in a sense, dissonant because it's so close, and I'm not really quite sure how that's going to affect you because it's just from the 4th to the 5th houses. Excuse me. And then on November 29th, Uranus trines the moon. Oh, wait a minute. Did I say earlier that the moon was in full circle to Leo? I was wrong. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Never mind on the earlier thing. Okay, the moon then goes into Leo at that point on November 29th and squares Uranus in Aries. So both of these are fire signs in your fire sign houses. And this harmonious trine between Uranus and the moon in your 12th house will give you that sense of knowing that you did something very beneficial and can relax about it and kind of take time to yourself and go within. Then the last quarter moon occurs. Now, back over here in your sign, Virgo, in your first house of the self and body, at 7 degrees Virgo, 43 minutes. Or at 0 hours, 20 minutes. So now, that's all I have for you. And so the last quarter phase moon wraps up the last of my reading. And I just wanted to show you that indeed I definitely had my surgery. I'm not going to show this to you, but because that's why I have it bandaged. I have stitches still that have to be removed. This time, instead of on October 5th, I'm going to have these removed on October 10th. Only because I chose that to happen, because I have an apartment inspection this Friday, October 5th, and I hate those inspections, so I told them I wanted to be here in my home, watching over my dog and my belongings or personal possessions. Nobody enters my apartment without my knowing it. I'm sorry, but I just don't agree with that. So, and all it is for fire alarm testing or fire sprinklers testings. And that is it, Virgos and or Virgo risings, or those of you with your moon in Virgo. By the way, I love it. I love people with their moon in Virgo. They're so sweet-natured. My late boyfriend had his moon in Virgo. He was so sweet-natured. Anyway, I miss him. Anyway, I really do hope that you will give me a thumbs up, comment down below, or feel free to subscribe. Either way, have a happy Thanksgiving, and until I see you in December, take care. Bye for now.